All right, so here comes the fun part about life jackets, or PFDs as they're often called. There's no debate. Everybody wears one all the time. The thing we really stress, though, is it has to be comfortable. Now, I'm going to show a couple of different things, but the first one that I'm wearing is the one that you're all going to get at the practice session on the sea base, and most of you will get when we go to the final trip on Colorado River from that vendor. I invite you to buy your own, but don't go out and spend money that you don't have. It's being provided for you. Whether you buy your own or use one of the rentals, fitment is critical. This is a safety piece of equipment, and so it absolutely has to be done, utilized properly. In all cases, if it's zippered, it must be zipped. If it's clipped, it must be clipped. You must absolutely know that all the clips are part of the design. Now, without my losing the microphone again, I need you to understand how this works. These are not designed to make swimming easy when we get thrown overboard, and let's avoid getting thrown overboard. But they are designed to do one very important thing: keep your head above water if you happen to be knocked unconscious. Now, when I was in my sailing days and the boom was swinging across, those kinds of accidents could happen. And so the Coast Guard's rule is a life jacket must be an adult, in our case, and I think it's called a Type 3, because you have to be able to stay your head afloat if you're knocked unconscious. How does that work? Well, when you fall in the water, this rises up and gets held here under your arm, and so this keeps your head above the water if you're unconscious. But understand that it isn't going to make it easy to go swimming. And so if you do get in the water, you're still going to keep wearing this because it's going to make it easier for you to do what you need to do, which is you hold on to the canoe and you stay with the canoe under all circumstances. Because if something goes wrong and you're in the water, we're all going to come help you immediately. We'll see that you're in trouble, and we're all going to help you get out of the water, and we'll practice all this at the next session when we're on at the sea base. But I need you to understand, this is worn all the time, but it can't be worn loosely. It has to be worn snug so that when it develops into a safety item, it really holds your head up above water. Ron, you want to give me a paddle, please? Now, sometimes when we're in trouble and we need some help, we'll call on the radio. But it is possible, and I meant to mention this earlier, that you need some help when you're paddling and your radio is dead. So I wanted to show you the signal or the code for that. As we're paddling, if you need a little bit of assistance, all you have to do is hold your paddle up in the air like this, and it says to everybody, come on and help me, raft up around me. We have something we need to talk about. Excuse me. And so I expect that if you're needing some help, this is what you do. If you really need help and you're in trouble, you do this. It's the same signal, but now it means urgent, that you really need help. And so this might be the code for rafting up, but this is definitely the code for come get me, I need some help. Now, this is when you're in the boat. When you're falling overboard, you don't look for the paddle to give a code. Everybody's going to see you're in trouble, and we're all going to go help you immediately. This life jacket does everything you need, and it's not very expensive. But you can get some other fun toys and other fun gadgets attached to this. Now, in the fishing world, they have a really nice version of this, and I use this for canoeing all the time as well. And as you can see, it has to be zipped up and has to be clipped up. But what makes this particularly nice for me, and why I use it a lot, is it has a lot of pockets. And for me and fishermen, that's kind of important. I like to have my binoculars in one and my camera in the other. And someone would say, well, wait a minute, don't you want to put your camera in a waterproof box, like you said earlier? And the answer is yes. For some of my expensive stuff, I want that option. But I have a less costly camera, and I like to keep it handy because, I might get that candid shot. That's an option for you all as well. And sometimes I have a granola bar and something else in these pockets, so I like to have pockets in my life jackets. That's why I bought this. You'll also see on my life jacket, I have, on all my life jackets, a few extra things. I'll always have a knife somewhere on the life jacket in case I have to quickly cut the rope that we've used to tie two canoes together. We try not to cut a rope, but sometimes there's an emergency to do that. And sometimes we're in the water or on the canoe trip in the dark, and so sometimes it's nice to have a flashlight. We'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. And the other thing that I like to have is a whistle, and that is in every one of my life jackets as well. Because if you're in the water and you need some help, yelling doesn't get you anywhere. You'd be surprised how voice doesn't carry, but a whistle does. And so if you are in trouble and you're on any kind of trip, with or without me, having a whistle, having a flashlight, and having a knife handy can be something important. Don't want you all to go out and buy this right away. No, I'm just giving you a little bit of extra pointers. That's what you see on this life jacket, but it still works the same way. It has to be zipped up and clipped up so that if I fall overboard, it rides up and keeps my head above water. There is another popular life jacket that a lot of people are getting into. Again, more costly than the first two I just showed you. But this is actually an inflatable. Behind here are two bladders that just become one big air balloon. And when this opens up, does the same thing, brings my head up above water. Again, not meant for swimming, but certainly meant to keep you out of harm's way if you're unconscious. Now this opens up or inflates two different ways. I can pull this little red tab and it'll suddenly go like a shot into one big balloon thing. Or there's a little device inside that when it gets wet, it does the same thing that pulling the blue tab does. It's an automatic inflation on this. You have to be a little careful with that. One of our trips, one of the guys that had one of these tripped in 6 inches of water, fell face flat into that same water. He would have been fine, but this got wet and of course exploded into a giant balloon, and certainly not the thing he wanted because he was only in 6 inches of water. So it's kind of funny, we laugh about it all the time. But it is something to consider when you have these type of automatic devices. I got this one because it does have, again, two pockets, and one's for my radio and the other is for other things that I might find that I need in a hurry. Again, pricey, but enjoyable. And I was given one a long time ago, also an inflatable. It doesn't have any pockets. Same idea though, it just becomes two big air pockets, and you pull the little tab down here, and you won't believe it, but there's actually a knife and a flashlight and a whistle embedded in this too. And so that's, again, personal preference. This all to replace the old standby style that you've all seen. And this is the same thing you see when you go on a cruise. It looks a little funny, but it is no less important as the rest of these in its function. You make sure that you have it wrapped around you properly. It is clipped tight. And as you can see, if you're in the water, this is going to keep your head above water if you're unconscious. That's how it gets its rating. You cannot, now this looks old, and so you might not want to use it, but it is still perfectly functional. That's why you see all these on the cruises, because they don't require any gadgets or any maintenance or anything being careful. This is your general purpose use. I don't recommend this for canoeing, whereas I would recommend this for canoeing, or the first blue one for canoeing, because remember what you're doing. You are paddling, you're moving your arms, right? And so it's easier to move your arms when you have this big cutaway, and the blue life jacket works the same way. You have a big cutaway, whereas this tends not to be really well received for canoeing. I mentioned other things you might want to have. And so I threw a few things on the table here. This is a black long johns, insulated, just one big pullover. If you end up in the water and you want to get warmed up, I highly recommend this. This is a lightweight sleep kit. What I call that is a sweatshirt and sweatpants, and this is a poncho. But the other thing that I did not put in my day bag and will from now on is one of these, and it's going to look a little funny, but it's going to explain what it is. I highly recommend this, all right, very much so, because you can use it as keeping your neck warm, and when the wind is blowing, it's really good. And if you have a hood, as I do on my poncho and my rain jacket and also my windbreaker, this can keep my head warm. And so as the day is going on, you'll find I'll start the day wearing this, and then as the day wears on and it gets warmer, I'll throw it in my day bag, and then I'll have this handy at the end of the day in my day bag without having to struggle looking for it. So I just wanted to tell you about the life jacket and PFDs and a couple of emergency things to have. One caution about the self-inflate. If you do get one of these, you want to test it. You want to read the directions carefully. If you expect it to self-inflate and you throw it on the shelf and you don't check it before your next trip, sometimes the device doesn't work properly. So the automatic inflation needs to be checked carefully. And I will also, before you go, and I also tell you that the guy who opened up on had extra cartridges. So if you go for this, please get some extra cartridges and have them in your pocket somewhere. And if all else fails, and the automatic inflation doesn't work, there's a tube right behind here. If I open this up and I bring it up here, I can blow this up with my mouth. And so this has a lot of different ways to inflate, a lot of gadgets and a lot of pieces to it. We don't make this a Boy Scout item. We certainly don't make this a required item. This is your required item, the one I started with. It's simple, it's easy, it doesn't have a lot of things that can go wrong. This is what you're going to be provided, but you can buy something fancy if you wish. Just know that the rules still apply. You wear it all day, anytime you're on the water.